Now, last week, Cory Booker was on the Breakfast Club. He was asked about a black agenda. He started laughing. He started saying a bunch of nothing. Now, I want you to hear, he's in Des Moines, Iowa. He's going to bring up the topic about blackface, which is something that they have been doing heavy. 2019 is the return of the blackface. I guess that's how these people want to do it. So Cory Booker is addressing this. Let's go ahead and roll the clip.
And so how do we get to a point where we can start having the conversation without people falling into a defensive crouch? Because sometimes when folk want to tell the truth about something, they fear speaking the truth or talking to people about what they don't understand. I've had conversations with white friends of mine this week who just had the safety to come to me and ask me, I don't understand this blackface thing. Can you explain it to me? Imagine in this climate now saying that publicly. Imagine, put yourself, want to have more courageous empathy, put yourself in a white person's position who might have questions. Look, I grew up in high school in the 80s, man, and it was a homophobic environment. I got to college and I started working as a volunteer. I eventually ran the organization. It's an organization called The Bridge at Stanford. It's a crisis hotline. Anybody can call in with any problem. We have suicide calls, sexual assault calls. But I'm a young kid and I didn't know these issues. I started getting these calls from people who are struggling with coming out.
Cory Booker is like the king of not saying anything. Like, dude, do you really listen to yourself when you talk? You need to go back and listen to the tapes because you don't be saying anything, man. The topic was blackface. Then you went to homophobia. What that got to do with blackface? And every time I look up, you're always bringing up something about LGBTQ when it's time to talk about black folk. Listen, when you go talk to the LGBTQ people, okay, discuss that with them. But when you talk about black folks, let's keep that conversation on black folks. It's just that simple. I mean, this guy here, the nerve of him to say, well, you know, we need to see how white people feel about that. Man, that's the last thing I'm worrying about is how white people feel about a black face. And it's not our job to educate them on their culture. Yes, I said their culture. They the one created blackface. They the one created racism and white supremacy. We didn't create that. So why I'm gonna sit up there and educate them on something that they already created? If they don't know nothing about it, they got Google, they got Bing, and anything else that you want to learn from, they have it. Cory Booker, you know, he just keeps sticking his feet in the mud every time you look up when it comes to the black voters. This guy does not have a black agenda. Obviously, he don't care about the history and legacy of black folks to even be making that kind of speech. And why you caping for them for? Like, they ain't asked you to go do all that. I mean, but you just showing your allegiance, that's all. And black folks, you know, we see him. And he's the type of person that we can't fool with Cory Booker. He's too compromised. He grew up in an all-white neighborhood. He was the only black kid around. So this man, mentally, about all his life, he said he never even got around black people too much until he went to Stanford University. And even when he was at Stanford, he didn't go hang out with the brothers. He was hanging out with the same kind of people that the world he comes from, which is a bunch of white folk. Cory had nothing but white friends. He wasn't exposed to black people like that. See, my thing is, you know, we talk about a black agenda, but we need to start thinking about the people we asking that too. Like, how can they really relate to a black agenda? Think about that. Many of us expected Barack Obama to know what to do. Well, you think about Barack Obama. He didn't grow up with his Kenyan father. Obama was the same way. You know, he grew up, he grew up no different than Cory Booker. So they like both white in the mind. That's why they talk the way they talk. You know, a person like myself can relate. I remember growing up in the hood. I know how it feels. I know the problems lie in the neighborhoods. I remember the crack epidemic. I remember all of that. And I definitely can relate to the problems. But if you're not like someone that actually grew up in the black community, then why are you even speaking on it? Because you haven't educated yourself enough to know some things. Pandering that Cory Booker participated in, it is really sickening and sad. But leave me a comment, let me know what you think about this particular story with Cory Booker. Cory, we don't want to hear what they got to say about anything when it comes to blackface. The only thing we want to hear is them denounce it, be sick of it, and also donate to organizations that's fighting against racism and white supremacy.